We were fortunate enough to be granted permission to visit and to photograph Line Barracks here in Port Louis. Whilst many are aware that this is an old site, one might reasonably ask, just how old is it and what is its history? We know that the French relocated their settlement to Port Louis around the year 1735. We also know that the French administration made extensive use of enslaved labour. In this early French map from 1756, the area we now know as Line Barracks is clearly marked as captivary, a term used to denote the place where captive slaves were held. This would strongly suggest that the original purpose of the site was not military at all, but rather a place of confinement. At this time, only the northern range and the surrounding perimeter wall had been constructed. If we now move forward to the map of 1774, we can observe not only the considerable expansion of Port Louis itself, but also further development within the barracks walls. 2 additional buildings have been erected, and a well has been sunk within the compound. Now, from present-day Line Barracks, we turn to a detailed plan drawn in 1898. Here, we are able to identify the various purposes to which many of these structures were put. The southwest range was constructed to serve as soldiers' quarters and stores. The 2 gun sheds have since been demolished, as has the Asiatic Artillery's cookhouse. What was once the racquet court now serves as the pistol range. The prison cells have retained their original function, though they are now used to house prisoners awaiting transfer. The section which suffered fire damage and which is presently undergoing reconstruction was originally the ordnance store. Part of this space was later reappropriated as a chapel and an adult school, approval for which was granted on the 19th of November 1912. A workshop was subsequently constructed, and we may also identify the former location of the men's bathhouse. Now, this particular structure invites closer inspection. At first glance, one might assume these to be prison cells. Yet we already know that a substantial cell block existed elsewhere within the compound. This building lies adjacent to the native married quarters, and we can observe that its ventilation shutters are operated from the inside. We therefore believed that this structure was originally intended as accommodation for native troops. At a later date, it was repurposed for the storage of ammunition, as evidenced by doors clearly marked as shell stores, housing ordnance such as 9-pounder and 7-pounder rifled muzzle-loader shells, as well as quick-firing 3-pounder ammunition. Further evidence of native troop accommodation may be found in the presence of a native latrine. 3 of these rooms were later incorporated into a brick structure, together forming the powder magazine, a function confirmed by this issuing hatch. Continuing along the perimeter, we encounter the native married quarters, a latrine block later divided into separate facilities for men and women, a dustbin and a cookhouse. Should you wish, a second reel may be prepared, covering the remaining 2 ranges and the buildings within the grounds. Let us know in the comments below. Please show your passion for the history and heritage of Mauritius by liking and following our work.